Hello everyone and welcome to the second episode of the OKKO Anime Club. This week we are discussing JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And I hope you have all watched JoJo's if you're watching this or are live with us now, because if you haven't, go away, watch it and come back, because this is going to be jam-packed full of spoilers, even though I don't really think JoJo's is a show you can be that spoiled by. And so I think it's great. Just so you know, go away and watch it, come back and watch this with us. So we're going to start off, because JoJo's obviously split into Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency. Start off talking about Phantom Blood. And seeing as Evie, you're the person whose opinion I know absolutely nothing of about JoJo so far, why don't you lead us in?
Is that a face?
Just shout outs first to Kurapika in chat, who said, "Let's get this JoJo show on." And I read it as "Let's get this JoJo on" at first, so thanks for the smiles. Even if they were accidental. Oh my god, I got
all I can say is "Let's go, Joe."
JoJo. Okay, so JoJo's is something that I probably wouldn't have watched if we weren't doing it for this. And there is a very, very good reason as to why. And it's because it's just not my thing.
I'm having a weird feeling of deja vu to last episode. Right? For some, it's strange. It's almost like I'm hearing myself, but with a girly voice, or more girly than usual.
I'm trying to word it in a way that you wouldn't. So like I'm just copying you. So I don't know. I didn't. The first half, right, started off and I really liked it. You know, you had JoJo, who is this really likable protagonist, and you had Dio, who was this really, really awful human being for a bit. And I was like, okay, I can sort of get on with this rivalry a little bit. That's fine. And then I got bored really quickly. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of how to word this, but I don't like Dio as a villain too much.
No.
And he was basically my main problem.
You're gonna love Stardust Crusaders then. That's all I'm gonna say.
No.
Well, right, can I just say, jumping ahead of time to the bit after the credits in the last episode of season 1, just made me want to flip tables, man. It's like, oh, we pulled this coffin out of the ocean where this boat sank.
That is like a genuine 100% confirmed plot hole as well. Like even the mangakars admitted, yeah, that I
thought she floated away in the fucking coffin.
Yeah. But basically, apparently the reason behind that was because last minute, like just as he was about to start doing part 3, he went, "I'm gonna have Dio as the villain again," and then had to like,
oh yeah,
retcon it.
Pretty much everyone has said, "Oh, by the way, you're not gonna like the villain in the next season." I'm like, oh, it's Dio. Oh, I know it's Dio.
If
like,
you didn't
people
know,
haven't said it's Dio, but it's definitely Dio.
Yeah.
Completely forgot, by the way. Hello, I'm back a shift. This is Bizarre Jelly 5 Intensity Twist.
It does say at the bottom, so it's alright.
About that bit. But yeah, the thing about Dio is, I think in kind of the first...
Can I just get my thoughts on him out of the way really quickly, so I'm not copying you?
I have a feeling this has been bottled up for a long time, so I'm going to get this Dio hate out of the way.
But for everything that I really, really liked about the show, I didn't like the villains. I thought they were really bland and really boring as villains, because they were just bad. They didn't have, like, really any motive, apart from they just were bad people. And it pissed me off. Pissed me off real bad.
Well, we'll get onto the Pillarmen a bit later. But Dio, in the first, I think it's literally just the first episode or 2 before it takes like one of its numerous time skips, which is one of the things I think Phantom Blood has against it a lot. It's just because it's so disjointed, because there's like 5 time skips in 9 episodes. Is that at the start, Dio was just a massive cunt, and I fucking hated him. But I hated him in the way that it felt like it was done well to make me hate him. Like, he was just a genuine, absolute bastard. He burns the dog. He does all these horrible things.
That was what got me, it was like, oh shit, he set the dog on fire, right?
Yeah.
And then in the next episode, they had that time skip, and him and JoJo were like best friends, and it was like, how did you just forget about him burning your dog alive?
Yeah, but that's like, within like 4 seconds of that happening, you have that internal monologue of Jojo going, "You burnt my dog. I haven't forgotten. Don't you think I've forgotten, Dio, you knob?" And then it goes to Dio, and Dio's like, "I still hate you. You're a knob, and I'm going to make you cry again."
But like at the start, I found Dio quite entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But I just felt like he regressed towards the end of the first arc, to the point where he was just so boring at the end. Like when he changed to the point of like, I am a massive dick, I want to make lots of money, I want to make JoJo's life a living hell, to I am the bearer of all evil, I want to take over the world. He just lost all kind of like, he just stopped being interesting.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And the other thing that I didn't like about him was that, and the thing that I don't like about JoJo's villains in general is that they are immortal. But they always have one weakness which they figure out, and it's like...
Oh, yeah. But honestly...
Cars is being space.
Yeah.
I love that.
We'll get onto that later.
Yeah, we'll get onto...
those
battle tendency.
Yeah.
But that being said, I did find it really interesting what they did at the end of the arc, because I had no idea what was going to happen. Because I always saw the promotional images for Stardust Crusaders, and I was like, how does this JoJo turn into that?
Yeah, because you didn't know he changed character every arc.
I didn't know. So going into it, like, not knowing that, I feel that was a benefit, because I was like, oh shit, is this what it's doing? It's killing off the main character, what's going on? But I liked JoJo as a character, like Jonathan.
Wait, you'll say which one.
Yeah, I like Jonathan as a character a lot.
I really like Jonathan as well.
I don't know why I liked him though, because he was very one-track minded, and he was like...
Yeah, I think it's because the attraction to Jonathan, I think, over Joseph and like over a lot of the other hero characters, just he is the very generic, straight and narrow. I'm a gentleman. I'm the hero. You know, it's generic, but it's kind of a welcoming sort of, you know.
So the thing is, he has like this strange like charisma and class.
Yeah.
I think the most character-defining scene for Jonathan.
I think that that's like a really good point when you bring up the scene where he thinks he's killed Dio, and he just starts crying, and he's really sad about it. And I was like, oh, he grew up with that guy. I feel really bad for him because he knows he had to do this. And I don't know. I thought that was admirable, but I wasn't going to miss Dio if he actually died. You know.
At the same time, he was a knob.
Yeah, man. But going back to what I was just saying, I think the most character-defining scene for Jonathan is that thing where he goes to the that like Chinese alley or whatever, and he first meets Speedwagon.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just like, "What? But your leg is so big, you could have killed my friend." It's like, "No, but I withdrew my kick because I am here on behalf of my father, and you must have a father too, so I withheld my blow to make sure I did not cause grief for your family." And it's just like, man, you are like the most amazing human being in the universe.
And then that spurs Speedwagon to become the most amazing character in the entire series.
Yeah, I love Speedwagon.
Speedwagon's
amazing.
I love that guy. Because he's a gent too. But you don't expect him to be when he came out of like the
He's the incredible. He is also. I'm going to move on to this conversation that we were having earlier before the show started. But he is also the only character that got away from somehow managed to escape the whole Romanization thing, because his name is a musical reference, but it's not. It didn't get jingle jangled up.
What's his one a reference to?
Emily knows.
What?
What's Speedwagon a reference to?
Isn't there an actual band?
There is a band called.
Okay, it's just a band.
There's a band called REO Speedwagon, and the initials of his name are EO Speedwagon.
Yeah. But it's the names and everything that makes JoJo's just completely impossible to license. Like All-Star Battle took them so long to get it out over here, and the manga and everything.
Filthy Deeds at a reasonable price.
Yeah, man. And because when I was watching it, when I watched it originally, obviously it wasn't on Crunchyroll back then. But when I was watching it on Crunchyroll to rewatch it, you could tell that in order to be able to put it on Crunchyroll, all the subtitles for the names were just completely changed to get around any sort of copyright. So
Which
like,
I didn't know, because I was just like, oh, that guy's called Whamu, alright.
That guy's called Sen Vien Bien Blum Blum.
Yeah, like there's in Zeppeli's little gang, there's Straits and Dyer, so Dyer Straits, but in the frickin' Crunchyroll subs, it's Dyer and Strazo. Well, and then in part 2, it's Whamu, Kazu.
Supposed to be Wham.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Whamu meant to be Wham. Kazu and frickin' Essie Dissy.
Essie Dessy.
Literally written ESSI. It's just like, oh man. And San Viento being Santana. It's just like, man, this is really silly. Because the thing is, like, you can kind of understand it with straights and with Wham, because they do say like Streso and Whamu, but San Viento, they just say Santana.
Yeah, you can even hear them go Santana.
Oh dear.
I don't know what's going
What do
on.
we think about the lore of JoJo's though? The whole, the ripple, the Hamon, and just kind of like
It's a load of
how
crap.
they
That's what it is.
exactly how they.
It's a load of ham on.
How they justify what that is, because I don't think by the end of the series we even really know what the ripple is properly.
It's life energy.
I think, yeah.
life energy?
It's just described as some sort of energy, life
It's
energy.
the power of
But-
the power of good,
But I don't.
and it's the fact like
I
the idea
assume-
that I think it's kind of the whole idea of it's come from the idea of being alive versus being undead, because the Hamon is supposed to be the power of life, and you have to be alive and breathing to be able to use it.
Cause,
And then-
The
Because
only,
I
reason
love
that
how-
the only reason that I thought that was because you know when Will Zappelli died, how he said, "I'm transferring my Hamon into you, JoJo."
Yeah. That was such a Dragon Ball Z moment, and it was amazing.
He was cutting off, but he was still
Yeah,
like,
man.
"I've got
Yeah,
a
man.
chance.
And then he's like,
Don't
and
worry,
then
guys, I'm
he
not
goes,
dead
I'm
yet."
going to transfer the last of my Hamon to you. After this, I cannot possibly do any more. And then he has another monologue afterwards.
But
I just think
that
it
was
was-
when I assumed that, like, oh, this is not just a fighting thing. It's like someone's spirit of some
Spirit.
of some
The thing that
description.
made the ripple so hilarious is that whilst it kind of did have that underlying concept of it had to do with like life and whatever, there was no limit or like kind of boundary or like connecting theme to what you could do with it.
Oh yeah, you could literally do anything. As
You
long
could
as
just
you
do anything with the ripple.
as
It's just like,
long as you were breathing, you could use the ripple to set your VCR. You know,
which to the point where
But-
it was like
cook your
when
dinner.
there were the bits where it was like, oh, I can't do that with the ripple. I was like, what? But you can do everything with the ripple. It's like, I can't break this metal, but I can do anything
But
else.
I can make a man melt by looking at him. But I can't
All these
cook a
leaves
chicken.
here,
Mhm.
I can make them into a hang glider.
That was the dumbest moment of the entire thing. That was what kind of
No.
I was gonna. Well, for
I
me,
think the dumbest moment, for me at least, is the ripple. The only one ironclad rule, the only thing that they say you have to do, and they make sure that they do this every time before you use the ripples. You have to breathe. It's Hamon breathing, and yet there is a scene where a severed head uses the ripple. How does a severed head breathe? You need lungs to breathe. Frickin' Dyer, or whatever he is, severed head, ripples
Yeah.
a rose, shoots it into Dio's eye. How
Maybe it
did
was-
you do that?
maybe it was residual Hamon energy because he was breathing
Can-
before he got his head cut off.
Can I just
dunno.
ask this thing about Hammond? Because there's one thing that I don't understand, which is sort of in the like split between arcs. There's another character, I don't remember his name, who was JoJo's son.
Oh,
George.
George.
George, yeah.
And then there was Joseph. But George didn't use Hammond. Or I don't know if he knew about it. I don't know if he just never trained with it. But can anyone learn Hammond? Or is it a
Yeah.
thing that you have to be...
Yeah.
Anyone can learn how to use the
I
Hamon.
think anyone can learn how to use it if you
But-
go through the right
But
training.
apparently, once you've learnt it, all your descendants will know how to use it.
Yeah, apparently.
But yeah,
naturally.
aside from the bit where he can't breathe, where he uses it when he's a severed head and uses it, the thing I loved about everything in JoJo's and everything ridiculous they do is that they just do it and they don't question it. Therefore, you don't question
It
it
just happens.
because
I
I
question
think
it.
it's.
I
But
do
it's
question it.
I just to me JoJo's is such a perfect example of a show that knows what it wants to be. And so it's like, yeah, I'm doing all these ridiculous and stupid impossible things that cannot be explained in any way, but that's fine.
I'm just going to clarify something. Oh, the reason why I think that the whole leaf thing was the dumbest part, and it wasn't because of the leaf thing. That was fine. You can do what you want. It was
because of the kid who was mooning off the bat.
No, it was the fact that they went, you know what, we're going to use like Hamon magnetism power to make a hand glider out of leaves. But no, No, even better than that. The leaves are going to form the shape of a giant leaf.
It's because they knew what they were doing. I love how Will and Jonathan, literally both of them, they just saw the leaves and they were like, "You and me, man.
Giant leaf glider, go."
It was just like, "Man, you're my spirit animal. Let's do it." But like, and also, the ripple actually lets you predict when people are going to die as well.
Yeah.
You can do everything.
The
ripple is very powerful.
Tell the
I watched
future.
an entirely different show to you guys because I'm like, what the fuck is the ripple? Like, I don't understand.
It's alright. It's alright. You don't have to worry about it from this point on. The ripple's done.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's just because in Crunchyroll they don't say ripple, they say Hamon.
Hamon.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
So
Crunchyroll.
Hamon is ripple. They just like they actually do say Hamon in Japanese, but it translates to ripple.
Okay. I'd actually like to bring up one more thing specifically about the first half of JoJo's, which is the setting and it being in ye olde time England. Because I hate that setting so much. I hate it in anime. I hate it in just general fiction. I'm not a fan of that setting at all.
But Jack the Ripper made a cameo.
Right, this is the thing. This is the thing that pisses me off, because every fucking anime ever that is set in England around that time period has a Jack the Ripper character.
Can I just...
That pisses me off. It's so
sorry,
bad.
I did a little bit of studying on Jack the Ripper when I was at uni, and part of the reason for that is because Jack the Ripper is insanely popular over there. Like, as like a historical figure, which he technically is now, it's just insane. There are billions upon billions of songs about him. There is a band where the lead singer pretends to be him. He's like you said, he's in every anime ever. He's really popular. It's crazy.
Isn't one of the like heroic spirits in Fate Apocrypha? Jack the Ripper?
Is it Apocrypha? Yeah, Apocrypha. He's the assassin of black. And it's a friggin' pink-haired lolly that kills people.
Pink-haired lolly. That's John's ideal version of
There's
Jack the Ripper.
two things that are always in anime that are set in England, and it pisses me off. Jack the Ripper being one of them. And there's always some like generic female character called Elizabeth.
Which one's this in?
Well, they're not so much in JoJo's because they actually like made her do something, but
and she didn't come in
Lisa,
until after the Victorian era.
Yeah.
Era.
Oh,
yeah. She was like born.
I
No,
completely
she was on
forgot
the-
Lisa's name was Elizabeth.
Yeah. She was on boat. She was on boat as
She
Wee
was on
Babby.
boat.
As Wee Babby.
As Wee Babby, then became Hamon Lady.
But her name was Elizabeth. I'm just like literally. I'm comparing this to Kuroshitsuji, where they had a Jack the Ripper character
Jack the
and
Ripper,
a really fucking annoying character.
And
called
Elizabeth, and yeah, there are a lot
The only
of
thing that
tropes.
this was missing was butlers that can throw knives really good.
Hey man, that butler never got into a fight. You never know. Maybe there was a scene cut out from the manga where it was all like
We should
silverware.
probably mention like JoJo's dad and what
He was
happened.
pro.
Oh,
I like
He was like
JoJo's
the
dad.
worst. I feel like he was the worst dad until he died. Like
It's because in his
so shit to
in his
JoJo.
dying
He was.
moments he justified everything. He was like, "Oh yeah, I was shit to you because I wanted you to be better than Dio."
It's true. I mean, to be honest, young JoJo did seem like an insufferable twerp.
hmm
It was
No,
just
it
like...
was lovely.
I'm not saving you because I want to save you. I'm saving you because I want to be a gentleman.
Just like his table manners.
Oh yeah.
Where he's just like
excuse
clumping all
me.
over the table.
I think I know someone in this call who has worse table manners than that.
Excuse me, Ebby. I didn't grow up in like a posh manor. You
Might
get
as well
taught
have
things
done.
like that.
Listen to
I
your
did.
accent. Listen to your accent. It's posh, okay?
Is it really? I didn't think it was.
Is it really?
You know what else? You know what else was ridiculous? One of the bits I love, yeah, is when he's fighting what's his face, Carcass, and that other guy, and he's in the water, yeah, and he's like, oh, he dives deeper, and then it goes into this kind of like semi-scientific description and kind of backstory thing where he's like, oh yeah, you know, with the bone and the dog and you pull it away, oh, and because of this area has residual subsidence, that means that air gets trapped, and then he proceeds to breathe a bubble of air. It goes from like
It's like Sonic the Hedgehog. It goes from like proper science
Yeah.
to Sonic the Hedgehog underwater
just-
level.
In
Just
video games,
scientific
where you get those
description.
like bubbles, and you pop them, and it's like, oh, my air
To
refilled.
be fair, you could say that about anything. Skipping ahead right to the end, because I've literally just watched it about an hour ago. Cars in a volcano. How did he save himself? I made a bubble of air around my body, and that somehow saved me from getting vaporized.
Alright, I want to talk about the volcano thing later, but we
Yeah.
actually will. But Kinrush just said this thing in chat that made me laugh, and he
Okay,
said,
go.
all the Joestar men are short-lived, except for JoJo's dad.
Yep.
So it's basically happened 3 times.
He wasn't a true JoJo man, though.
He wasn't.
That was before he dabbled in the Ripperoo.
Can I just say, I would love to get a body pillow, right? Of,
Insert
like,
male
Of-
character name.
Of
here.
who?
no,
Caesar?
Better be Caesar.
yes, actually. But my point was, I would just love to get like a real life-size JoJo's pillow, because it'd be like bigger than my
it'd
bed.
be absolutely huge, wouldn't it?
It'd be
It could just
massive.
be your bed.
Those
Oh,
people,
that sounds great.
they're so irresponsibly large. It's ridiculous.
That's
don't
just amazing.
understand.
I love that first time skip where it's like 7 years later. Jonathan Joestar's gone from being this like adorable little shrimp man into
Best thing about
rugby.
Yeah, it starts off that episode with rugby, and it's just like, Jonathan Joestar!
His
Oh,
shoulders are
he's-
bigger than the world.
It's like, 1 person, 2 person, 3 people, he passes to Dio!
The student body of the entire university is trying to stop this man from goaling rugby terms,
Making a point, right?
doing a thing with the ball in the field. There's all of them on him. No, he keeps walking.
Yeah, man.
I shouldn't drink
That's
before
like one
live
of the only
streams.
times I've seen rugby in anime, which makes me want a rugby anime so hard.
Man,
I'd
I used
watch
to be
that.
really into watching rugby, so I'd be able to do that.
Rugger. It could be called Rugger.
But imagine if it was just a rugby anime, but literally just an alternate telling of JoJo's, where just freaking JoJo
Where
and
they
Dio
actually
just
were
like,
best friends.
just
No
like-
man, one team could be all the JoJo's from like all 8 parts.
So how
Oh,
many
just
parts
get real-
of this thing are
They're on the 8th one at the moment.
Yeah.
Is that
it's-
not
it's-
going to be the last one?
No.
No,
There's no sign of it ending.
Alright.
Yeah,
Yeah, then there's a weird one.
You know, someone's
Technically-
just going to go, Dio's still in it, and I'm going to be like, right, done.
Technically, you can skip part 6. I think it's part 6 because part 6 is set in like an alternate reality. But I wouldn't because part 6
Wait,
was
is-
like my personal
well,
favourite.
you
Is-
probably could have
isn't
skipped
part
part
six-
2, to be
which one?
honest.
Which one's part 6?
It's either 6 or 7. Which one's Steel Ball Run?
Yeah, because you don't skip Steel Ball Run, because apparently that's the best one by far.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like it's not set in the same universe, but it's amazing.
According to my man Holden, the best 2 are Diamond Is Not Crash, which is part 4, and Steel Ball Run.
Steel
I'm
Ball.
hoping that they adapt all of them.
Oh, they will.
Oh.
Considering
Well,
how
just-
popular
JoJo's
it's
is
been,
like stupid popular, isn't it?
so good.
Yeah. Going back to Dio though,
Mhm.
from before I watched before I watched the season at all, before it aired, everyone had heard of Dio Brando just because he's this big iconic villain, one of the most iconic villains of all time.
And
whilst I-
Oh,
And whilst I barely got anything out of him in Phantom Blood, I'm assuming he gets more, like a lot better a character in Stardust Crusaders, which I think would make sense as kind of what's his face grows as a writer and everything. But all I can say is if Dio continues as he did in part 1, I just don't see how he is the iconic character he is.
It's because anyone who's played any of the JoJo's game, which from what I understand, most people got introduced to JoJo's from the fighting game that was on like the Dreamcast and stuff. And everyone
Yeah.
knows Dio because of his special move where he stops time, throws a shitload of daggers at the enemy player, disappears, reappears on top of them with a steamroller, slams the steamroller into them, beats the shit out of the steamroller until it explodes, then restarts time so the daggers that he placed about 4 hours earlier hit them, and then does his vampire scream thing.
And goes,
Mudana! Ree!
all I can say is I cannot wait for that to get adapted.
When that
I can't-
happens,
Hope that,
oh,
that
man.
better flipping happen in the anime. And
I'm
if
pretty
it
sure
doesn't,
I'm pretty
it's
sure it
sad.
does happen in the anime. Just saying, but
just my
it's got-
face on stream right now is me just going, what?
there's a steamroller.
I've heard about a
Yeah.
steamroller, but I didn't know what it was in...
It's Dio. You know the re thing, right? The W R
No.
Y.
It's the vampire cry. He makes it in the show. He goes.
I was like, oh, Dio's on screen again.
So it was you.
I swear he died
It was you
times.
that was going.
Yeah.
It's fucking
Have
Dio.
we talked about Will yet? Have we talked about the Zetmeister?
We're
I freaking love that guy. He was just
awesome.
this really
I love the
quirky
fact-
guy who just like popped along and was like, I'm gonna teach
The
you
thing
how
that I
to,
loved
like,
about
win the
Zappelli
game."
was his introduction, because he was just sitting on a fence, sitting on a wall, eating a sandwich. He was just like,
man.
"Yo, I heard you had a run-in with Mask. Oh, don't like that Mask. Shit."
He just puts his thumb in him and he tries it on Speedwagon. And he's like, "Oh, I missed. I hit your pancreas. Oh damn it!"
You're gonna be pissing blood for a
And
month.
obviously, Will Zeppeli's finest hour,
Yeah.
jumping along the water. What a dude!
Oh, I like that guy.
All right. With that said, shall we move on to the bit we all want to talk about?
Well, hang on, I haven't actually been able to say my piece on.
Oh, have you not actually said what you think of
Not
that?
really, not about Phantom Blood. No, I think Phantom Blood. It's like you say, Phantom Blood suffers from like time skips and stuff. But I think where Phantom Blood kind of suffers the most is the fact that it's quite obvious, or at least it's obvious to me, that Phantom Blood was just there to set up for battle tendency. It was all
it's
set up.
definitely a set the
It's-
scene kind of thing.
It's necessary, but yeah, and I think it suffers from being the length that it is as well, because if it was shorter, it would probably make more sense as just a setup thing. But if it was longer and the character had more chance to develop and there was more of them and blah blah blah, it would have made more sense as kind of a standalone thing. But it's kind of stuck in this kind of purgatory where it doesn't really know what to do, because the whole fight with Tarkus and what's his long-haired guy.
Yeah,
that guy.
Nobody knows what he's
Sort of like a that seemed a bit unnecessary. There was a lot of things that didn't really seem necessary in the set. If you go with the idea of it was just setting the scene. But that being said, the end of Phantom Blood was awesome, and the beginning of Phantom Blood was awesome. I really like the kind of, it's like Evie said, I really like the way that it kind of set up the relationship between Jonathan and Dio when they were kids, and it had some really nice build-up.
But
And
yeah,
it just kinda
I
went-
knew I wasn't gonna like Dio
Yeah.
though, because the first thing he does is like knee that dog in the face.
Yeah.
So.
And then it just kind of went, dance a bit, dance a bit, dance a bit, oh, it's over. Let's go on to what the show is actually
I've
about.
got to be honest though, like if Phantom Blood, right, had been its own season, I probably wouldn't have watched season 2. I probably would have gone, meh.
Yeah.
I can see that too.
It really depends on... I reckon it could have benefited from either being longer or shorter. I think it just kind of is stuck in the middle. And that
I don't
upsets
think
me.
it would have benefited from being longer because, like I said before,
Like, it
Dio
depen-
is bland.
Yeah, it depends
Dio
on
is
what...
really bland.
Well, this
in
thing,
that
it depends on what they did with it, because the thing is, Dio is the only real villain in Phantom Blood. Everyone else is kind of fodder. So if they had
Yeah.
other villains in it as well, kind of like how in... I mean, you know, Battle Tendency, you've got 3 main villains. And then going on to it without saying much about it, but Star Wars Crusaders has a lot of villains as well as just Dio. So, you know, it suffers from being very linear. But, yeah.
Shit.
we need
Shall
to
we-
mention
But I loved it.
the OP really quickly.
JoJo!
Can I just say it's the most anime opening ever?
It's my,
so anime.
it's my alarm at the moment. I set it as my alarm so that when I woke up this morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, I knew I'd remember to go, oh yeah, shit, I've got to watch JoJo's.
It was the best alarm to have. It is wonderful. I do prefer the second opening. We'll get
For the
onto that
second
later.
opening.
But the first opening's great. Oh, the one thing, I'll mention that here actually. I'd prefer to mention it later when we talk about music and stuff. I'll mention it here now. Did anyone else of it notice that on the last time they played
Yes.
the opening,
Yes,
both
in
times,
both, yeah.
they added sound effects?
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
weird, isn't it?
Because it's just like, yeah, sound effects. And I was like, well, these here the whole time.
No.
Never mind. It's just the last time they play the opening they had sound effects.
Though
So that
I
was a
didn't
really
notice,
nice touch.
I didn't notice that until the last time they played the second opening when the clonkers
Yeah.
go together and make that like
Yeah.
ching sound.
Cracker! I love clappers.
Krakabora!
Anyway,
Anyway,
Let's
let's
show
move
it-
on.
it's, you know,
To-
so Phantom Blood took half an hour. Let's just-
Yeah, man. Now let's talk about Battle Tendency. Short story. It was amazing. Fucking Battle Tendency, man. So
It's
good.
pretty good.
I have a problem where I don't know which JoJo I like more because I really like Joseph as well. But he was the reason I liked him was because he was so different to Jonathan, because he was brash and he was harsh and he was just everything.
I'd say
Oh no!
He was such a big kid. That was the thing about Joseph. He was a big kid, and it was awesome. Whereas Jonathan was all about being an adult and being a gentleman. Joseph was just like happy.
I wish we could have had them in the same room. Can you imagine how they would have acted together?
One day, man. Like when JoJo's Bizarre Adventure finally ends, I reckon there'll be a scene where there's just all of them.
When it goes Sentai. JoJo's could easily ask for like a stand that travels through time and brings all the JoJo's into one room.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait for that to happen. Because you know it will eventually. It's the ace that the mangaka's got up his sleeve. At any moment he's just going to go
full
all the JoJo's.
You know what? I would watch all of JoJo's just to see Jonathan and Joseph in the same room.
Yeah, man.
If that's what it took, I'd watch all of it.
I imagine the conversation being something similar to Joseph going, "You're my granddad. You're a bit of a stuck-up knob, aren't you?" And then Jonathan being, "You're my grandson. You're a bit of lout, aren't you?"
What had happened to George though? Because he was in the family bloodline, but he wasn't a Hamon.
He doesn't count. I believe it's every other descendant of the Joestar family line that counts.
Oh, yeah, mentioning this actually, at the end, where you see the guy in the airport, and he's like a guy with a beard, and the Japanese person runs into his,
the guy, you mean Joseph?
Yeah, that is Joseph, right?
Yeah, it is Joseph.
That is Joseph.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm, because he's got a beard, and it's confusing, okay?
Yeah, he's one of the main characters in Stardust Crusaders.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, is he replacing Speedwagon?
Yeah.
I suppose, sort of, yeah.
Pretty much. He does very much fill that role.
They sort of had like a couple of characters that sort of tied the two together. So they had Speedwagon and Erina.
Erina Pendleton.
Erina Pendleton.
Erina Bachan.
I love the family bonds. Like the scene where the mafia guy's like, "Yeah, Speedwagon's dead." And he beats him up and he goes, "It's all right. You made my granny cry. I'm gonna fucking mince your face." I just loved how much he's such this he's this brash dickhead who just ruins everyone, but he just loves his granny.
Yeah, man. And he's awesome. Like all those moments where he's like, "Oh no, Joseph's running away again. He's a massive coward. He's abandoned his friends. Let's forget all the other times that he did that and then turned around and saved us all, and think he's a twat again."
What really surprised me about Joseph was he didn't think a lot. He didn't think ahead in terms of like repercussions and stuff. So there was that scene when Straits, whatever, is standing outside the window, and he just pulls a Tommy gun out on him and just like machine guns the whole place. And I'm like, what?
I like the fact that Smokey goes, "Do you not realise what you've done?" And then Joseph's just like, "Oh yeah, shit, the repair bill's going to be massive." And he's like, "No, you just shot a man."
This is wonderful. Joseph I don't get how he hadn't been in prison yet if he was so happy to do that kind of thing.
Can I just say as well, Smokey Brown, like the most exploitative name ever.
Yeah. He is like I'm surprised they didn't freaking change his name.
Oh, I know, yeah.
I did like that scene when they were in the restaurant again, before the guy comes up to him and tells them that Speedwagon's been killed, where there's basically this big fat white guy who's being a bit racist.
Yeah. And
Erina just goes, "You can beat him up if you want to." He made fun of your
friend. This goes on to a random point, but anyone who knows a bit of Japanese, probably from unfavourable sources such as the Filthy Frank YouTube channel, will understand that the scene where the really fat cop is like beating up Smokey, he actually makes a really racist slur. Like in Japanese, but obviously they didn't subtitle that. But I find that a bit strange that then they did go on to have the guy in the restaurant being racist later on, even though they just completely blindsided that before. I was like,
that makes a lot more sense, actually.
Yeah. I thought that was actually like a really nice inclusion, the racism, just because that is so culturally relevant at that time.
I just find it a bit strange that they took it out of the one bit and left it in the other bit. I was like, maybe...
Yeah. It sort of showed as well that Joseph don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Good guy.
Yeah, of course. But as we move on to the actual kind of main meat of Battle Tendency, that being the Pillar Men and the whole. I love, first and foremost, I love how well it ties in and how and like the kind of increase in scale, because it's like part one is all about this one mask. And then part two is just about fuck that one mask. There's millions of masks, and here's the people who made them.
It does the whole. I keep saying it does Dragon Ball Z, even though it was JoJo's that set the precedent for Shonen, really. But I love that bit where they have like Dio was the bad guy of Phantom Blood, and nobody could kill Dio. It took like the stars aligning to be able to defeat Dio. And then you get the bit with Santana in like the test chamber. Oh, there's a vampire. What vampire? Vampires are suddenly shit. Even to the point where when Wyatt Beck turns up and he's all like, I'm a vampire. You haven't seen a vampire for at least 6 episodes, and Lisa just kills him like that.
Yeah, it's great.
So basically, vampires no longer a threat.
Suddenly
really.
become
in the
shit.
grand scheme of things, no longer a threat.
Yeah. They do the whole grandstanding thing, which is like, no.
That initial kind of sequence involving Stroheim being introduced and Santana is just brilliant, because I thought Stroheim was honestly, when he was a villain, one of the best villains in the show, and then when he kind of changes into being a more hero character later on, it was brilliant.
He's just
Can
ridiculous.
I just say he turned into one of the funniest characters, but I don't know if it was intentional or not. Just because the fact that he was
intentional. It was definitely
in Second World War.
He became a robot, for Christ's sake. And then he became a cyborg and then died in Stalingrad.
I know, that was the stupidest thing about it, because it's like, everything about JoJo's is so ridiculous. It's all ridiculous because of the law of the ripple, and then there's kind of the whole thing is like, oh, and the Nazis have been dabbling in weapons technology and machinery and witchcraft and magic, and it's just like, what were those last two?
Yeah.
And then suddenly, like, they've got all this technology that even we don't have now, but it's in the Second World War. It's like,
yeah,
you know what,
I think
that's
pretty funny. Part 2 of JoJo's did give me my favourite character so far, being Caesar.
Oh, I knew it. Of
course, there's no way anyone else would be your favourite character, because he's
I don't know why.
Because he's beautiful.
Well,
he's a fancy
and he wears crop tops and has abs.
Well, so
he wears a
sort
bandana.
of JoJo.
He wears a bandana and he's all about kissing the women.
And he's blonde, and he's got these little bits here
that he even had when he was a child.
Can I just say, I knew he was gonna die from the moment that he was introduced, and I saw the opening again, because there's that scene in the opening where JoJo's putting on the bandana, and I'm like, oh, fuck,
well, when you watch the opening,
that is hideous spoilers, isn't it?
When you watch the opening to Phantom Blood again, you realise that the entire story of Phantom Blood is told in the opening, even to the point where the mask falls in the water. It's like, oh, right at the end. But yeah, Caesar's great. Although I did think he looked a little bit stupid when he was a child. In fact, he looked like a child Wham. He had Wham's haircut.
Can I just say, when Caesar was first introduced, and I didn't know he was a Zeppeli, I thought he was like related to Dio. Just like, he's blonde, so he got something to do with Dio.
To be fair, though.
So and then they said he was a Zeppeli, and I was like, oh, fair enough. I thought he was going to be like a villain who ended up coming out because
I'm so glad that he wasn't a villain, but he was more of like the bane of JoJo's existence for a little bit until they became friends, which was quite nice.
And then they became
I love their relationship. They were yin and yang. They were so opposite, and just they worked so well together.
But the way that Caesar died was like so brutal.
I loved it.
I thought it was way more brutal than his grandfather's death, where he got sliced in half, but he got crushed by a rock.
He didn't get sliced in half. He got ripped in half by a chain. That must have fucking hurt.
I think the main reason why it was more brutal is that it mattered more, because you are more invested in Caesar than you were in Will. Caesar was a main character. Will wasn't really.
I really liked Will as well, but his existence at that point was sort of inconsequential, because he taught JoJo everything that he knew. So he didn't need to exist anymore anyway. But
Caesar was just essentially JoJo's brother.
He was sort of like, how I compared him a little bit was what I thought the relationship of Dio and JoJo was for that split second. Like Jonathan, sorry. For that split second where you see the beginning of like episode 4 or something, where they're like, "Yeah, we're best friends." Yeah.
Yeah.
I sort of
I
thought
think that's
maybe
episode
that's
2.
what. Is it? 'Cause
Yeah.
I thought there were like 3 episodes of just. I don't
No,
remember,
that was just.
to be honest.
I think it was literally episode 2 with the
Well,
with the rugby.
the time skip. No, that's episode 3.
Is it? Oh, episode 3. Okay.
So I was one too high, you were one too low, and you were just right.
Straight.
Because
Because I literally saw it yesterday.
What was my point? Yeah, I thought that their relationship was sort of like, if Dio wasn't such a shit, what Jonathan and Dio's relationship probably would have been like a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, competitive, but not to the point where they're actually going to kill each other.
Yeah.
See, Caesar's death was extremely morbid as well, I thought, just in the sense that it's like JoJo walks in and the one confirmation that they have of him being dead is the fact that there's blood coming out from under this giant rock shaped like a cross, and there's a bubble floating there made of blood.
Yeah, I think it was just well done in that you really cared, and the amount of like emotional impact it had. Because like the scene, as soon as they come in and like Lisa puts her cigarette in backwards and they're crying, and just like, man,
That
I
bit,
really like
that
that.
bit was. I thought that bit was
so
really
powerful.
good.
It really was. It was so
when it's like,
powerful.
your cigarettes in your mouth backwards. That was a really human moment.
It
And
was.
as tragic as it was, I actually really liked that for its realism in that someone would do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my
like,
favourite
she's-
scenes, especially like surrounding a character's death that I actually really liked. So I liked this character, and I was like, oh, she doesn't want to grieve yet because she's got to go and do all this stuff. And then she puts the cigarette in backwards, and I'm like, oh no,
no.
oh no.
It's horrible.
Moving on from that actually moves quite nicely into Wham is probably my favourite of the 3 Pillar Men.
Oh, for sure, yeah. The reason that I liked him though was because he had that warrior spirit, which was really similar to the guy with the hair from season 1, which was another comparison that I wanted to bring up really quickly. I don't remember his name.
Like a black sword man.
Bruford?
Blueford. I think it might have just been Blueford.
Blueford.
But Wham was similar to Blueford in the fact that they were warriors and they respected their opponent, and they always gave that respect and let them die in a warrior's way or whatever. And then they had the opposite one, which was Cars and...
AC/DC.
No. Cars and the one from the big one who like killed Spelly.
Oh, Tarkus.
Who just did not give a shit, you know? They were just like bad people to fight because they had no respect for you. They just wanted to kill you, basically. I saw that comparison really early on, and I was like, oh, it's doing the same fucking thing again.
I think that's the idea though, because like the driving like point of the plot behind JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, or at least for the first 2 parts. I don't know how it pans out later on, but the whole the idea, the overriding theme is destiny and destiny repeating itself. Because that's one of the reasons why at first Caesar doesn't want anything to do with JoJo, because he's like, your grandfather drove my grandfather to his death. I don't want to be a part of that.
Worked out really well for him, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But I think generally one of the things that made Part 2 so much more enjoyable than Part 1 for me was just straight up that the Pillar Men, all of them, I actually really liked by comparison to Dio.
Yeah.
Like, Wham, I agree with you, he's the best one just because that sense of honor. And honestly, I think the sense of honor between the 3 of them was great. Like, even like Cars, like the moment where Cars steps on his shadow.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh. And it's just like, oh no, he's not a massive dick towards his own people. And Cars, most comparable to Dio than AC/DC and Wham, but I still found him to be a rather compelling villain. Simply that he was this kind of massive evil, I've got these goals kind of thing, but he just did it. Like, he didn't faff about with it, he didn't rely on minions, he was just like, yeah, I'm just going to do this, I'm just going to be the most powerful thing in the world because I want to. Fuck reasons and motives.
Because Cars.
And then there's AC/DC with his crying thing. And AC/DC was kind of like the quirky
genius.
one.
Yeah,
Can I
that
just
was
say-
genius, that moment. It's just like, what?
The brain thing, where like...
Oh, when he takes over Suzy Q.
Yeah, that freaked me out. I didn't like it at all. It freaked me
it was
out.
pretty nasty. Oh, and that's another thing, actually, coming back to that scene. The bit when Joseph is holding the brain, and he's just like, I'll just let him die, because there was even honor between the good guys and the bad guys. Because he's just like, yeah, he was an honorable person, because he was right. Like, AC/DC was doing whatever he could for his boss, and he was doing it as he could, and he was being an honorable soldier, and it was all very kind of rooted in.
Yeah, I think that's why I liked Joseph so much, was even though he was like a big kid, like literally big kid, he was very much a warrior in the fact that he was very honourable.
Yeah.
And always gave a lot of respect to his opponents, no matter who it was, and I really liked that because I thought it was a bit.
And he had common
different.
sense.
He had so much. He was so much smarter than Jonathan. I'm sorry, but he was.
Yeah, he was.
Even though he did have that air of being like really stupid about him, because he just does seem like a bit of a dumb character.
Jonathan was book smart, but Joseph was street smart.
Yeah,
that's pretty much the way to put it.
Worked out for Joseph, didn't it? Yeah.
Do you find it quite funny how pretty much all of the fight scenes, even going back to Phantom Blood, pretty much all of the fight scenes, apart from I'd probably say the final fight between Jonathan and Dio, I say the final fight, the one before the boat when they're in the castle and it's all going wrong, it was all very much like one thing would happen, and then you'd have 5 minutes of the pair of them talking about what just happened. And then like Joseph would be like, I've beaten you because I've done this thing which you weren't expecting. I made a web out of threads that I've charged with Hamon energy, and then AC/DC would be like, yes, you have done that, and you may have caught me off a little bit, but I have also made a web of my veins in the same place. That's where the title becomes
so relevant. Battle tendency. It's all about tactics.
This was my problem with the show in general. Was it was like. There was a bit when Lisa had a scarf, right? And she put it on the back of something Beck, I don't remember.
Wyatt Beck. She put it on the back of him, and then JoJo just stands there going, "Oh, I see. The scarf can transfer Hamon energy," and I'm like, "Don't fucking say that out loud." So many times that happened where they were like, "I have this tactic that I'm going to tell you about before I do it," and you're still going to fall. I love the fact that entire. Oh, go on. No, go on, you first.
That specific moment, he says that because he knows the damage has already been done, though. There's no... He hasn't gone and given away the secret. He's just saying, it's like, Tokiwara otomae. Like, you're already dead. Like, get done.
I love how, like, there's that entire structure going through all of the fights that happen up until the very end. And the reason why I love the final fight between Ultimate Being Kaz and JoJo is because... right at the last moment, Kaz is like, "You planned all of this, didn't you?" And JoJo is like, "Yeah, I did." But in his head, he's like, "No, I didn't." Thank fuck.
Thank God.
Another thing, talking about the final fight, can I just say the redstone of the jar was so pointless. Like, there is a point where they say, we're going to need to keep this because we'll need it to beat them. No, you don't. You killed 2 of them without it, and then you made the other one stronger with it. And then you didn't even kill him with it. You just showed it to him, and he launched into the sky.
Whoa! It made a volcano erupt.
Like,
can I just say, this is the thing that pissed me off the most about the last fight, was the fact that fiction doesn't understand volcanoes. In the fact that if they were that close to a volcano, at any point they would probably just combust and set on fire.
Yeah. No, because apparently, because what it was, right, was because like JoJo had used Hamon to create a blanket of air around him that protected him.
I did.
Definitely.
No, man, he totally did.
He was out of Hamon energy at one point. He made
a husk that was like a beetle, and it didn't quite work. So he made a buoyancy layer.
Kaz went for a swim in lava, and he was fine because he had crab powers.
I love that.
One of the genius moments in that final fight, I say the final fight, the lead up to the final fight, is the bit where Kaz turns his feathers into like armadillo shell and then fires it into the aeroplane, and it leaves it for just enough time for you to forget about it, and then suddenly piranhas.
Suddenly zombie piranhas, not just piranhas. Oh my god.
That fight was so silly in every way.
It was. But at the same time,
because it was like completely broke the idea that Kaz was like this ultimate being that could do everything. Because if he was, none of that would have even almost happened.
No.
Like, he wouldn't have got stuck to the front of the plane. Like, none of that would have happened. He wouldn't have even gotten to the lava. He would have like floated above it and just disappeared. And then he
That
gets...
whole scene just annoyed me so much because I'm like, they don't understand volcanoes. If he was launched that far into the air, on a rock or not, and came back down, he wouldn't have lived.
So you got angry about all of that. I
got angry about logic in the real world when I should have been just accepting the fact that it's JoJo's logic.
See, the thing you got angry about that bit. The bit that I got angry about.
You need to suspend your disbelief like so hard with JoJo's in order to get anything out of it at all.
The bit that I got narky about was right at the end when the big sheet of rock starts falling towards the earth and JoJo's just lying on it. I was like, he wouldn't just lie on it. He would be gone. He'd be up there.
I just didn't understand how did cars even get launched into space? Like, somehow this rock gets blasted and it's like, oh, he got hit by some more rocks. And now he's in space? I actually thought the ending of that fight was...
Yeah, and I just say, the way that... The reason I liked the ending to that fight in particular was because they were saying, oh, only he was made from the Earth, only the Earth can defeat him. No, he's got to leave the Earth to be defeated.
The power of space.
Yeah, it is very...
By the power of space, he will finally...
It's very flavorful. I'm still bitter about it.
He should not come back ever, because if he ever comes back, I'm going to be so sad, because they said he never came back.
I don't know. I know they said he never came back, but I think it would be cool if he did come back, because he's still alive. This seems possible.
I wouldn't like it, because I'm sad about the fact that Dio came back, because I thought that was over. And I feel like the Pillar Men is finished, you know?
But when you go, like, this is looking into the future, but when you, when you watch Stardust Crusaders, the whole thing about Dio coming back is kind of compelling. Because I'll just go ahead and say it, because it's revealed in the first fucking episode. Dio has Jonathan's body. Yeah. And that, on its own, is like... Whoa, it suddenly becomes way more compelling, because he becomes tied into the Joestar kind of destiny thing. But anyway, yeah.
Shit, now I'm gonna watch fucking...
That was the plan all along, now you have to watch it, yeah.
Damn it. I feel like, to be honest, like, I didn't really enjoy JoJo's all that much. But I feel like I probably would have enjoyed it more if I wasn't marathoning it. So if it was on a week-to-week basis, I'll probably enjoy it way more.
To be fair, I would entirely agree, because I was watching it as it was airing, and during that time, I mean, Phantom Blood was a bit of a slog watching it week by week, but Battle Tendency watching it week by week was amazing. Yeah, man. And then you got to the end of it, and then I was like, oh, now I've got to wait for like a year until the next bit comes out.
We were so hyped in the last episode. It was like, yeah, Stardust Crusaders already confirmed. We're like, yeah. And can I just say, like, shout-outs to David Production for actually doing an anime that's popular. Like, they've never done anything before. It's like, yeah, here's JoJo's.
Well, I'm surprised that JoJo's had never been really adapted before. It had a 6-episode OVA.
Yeah, it is weird. It's had, like, OVAs.
It's had a series, like, it's had a film, and it's had an OVA.
And millions of video games and all that. And everything.
I find it really strange, honestly.
It's one of those things. I think it's got something to do with the idea that they wanted, like, it sounds like I'm talking about like Marvel films or whatever, but it's almost like they wanted technology and the ability to animate it to be at a level where they'd be able to do it justice.
Yeah, I can get behind that. And because, to be honest...
Oh my god, sorry. I think I might have just realised something.
What?
Carry on, because I might be wrong.
Okay, so I think this show, in all honesty, is ugly as sin. I think it looks horrible. But
I was about to ask what you thought about the style of it.
It works.
See, I think the opposite, but carry on.
But so the only thing that's obviously the major problem is the CGI they use here and there, like the CGI in the chariot scene.
The CGI chariot battle was the best thing.
CGI horses, man. Wow, wow,
because like the CGI they used in the openings, I didn't mind, because it was like it was set aside, and honestly, it was foreshadowing All-Star Battle, because that's just the All-Star Battle like aesthetic. But I thought the thing looked like really like garish and horrible, and the proportions and the designs were really cool. But the whole like my legs are bigger than my torso, everything. It's ugly and it feels ugly, but I just thought it worked. I can't complain about it just because it works and it fits the theme of JoJo's so well for me. What were you going to say then, Abby, if you disagree?
I just really liked the whole aesthetic of the thing, because it was so... It looked like it had been taken straight out of a manga. Like, I didn't particularly enjoy all the, like, muscle and six-pack designs or whatever.
This is a random thing. What did you guys think of the hue changes? Like, when Cars suddenly had blonde hair?
I liked that. Although I did get confused and think that the lava had bleached his hair for a minute, and I was like, oh, is that all it did?
Like again, it was garish and horrible, but it worked.
I did like the moments when something really dramatic happened, and they would kind of add the manga style screen tones to the shadows and stuff.
I didn't like, when I think there were sound effects that came up on the screen.
Oh, like the
I didn't like that.
The menacing.
Oh yeah.
The gore.
I didn't like that because it doesn't really make sense if you put it in the context of Westerners watching it who don't know how to read Japanese. It just doesn't.
It does feel very much like they've tried to bring the manga to life rather than adapting it into its own thing. It really does feel like they've tried to take the pages of the manga and go.
It works with the kind of exaggerated style of it, but let's put it like this: can you imagine watching a superhero film, and every now and then you'd see like wham, kablamo, bajoom, like exaggerated bubbles on the screen? That'd be horrible.
Adam West Batman.
I've seen it done in various other anime before, like in Kaiji, the Zawa 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 thing appears all over the screen a lot, and it works in there.
It didn't distract me or anything. It just didn't work for me, if you know what I mean. Like, I wouldn't have missed it if it wasn't there. But on a whole, I actually really liked the whole aesthetic of the thing. I definitely preferred it in the second half, because I preferred Joseph's design to Jonathan's design.
I think
I like Jonathan. The thing I like the most about Jonathan was his shoulder pads. I was just like, he seems to be wearing like just a regular woolen jumper with shoulder pads. I was like, yeah, shoulder pads.
I think that the second half was just a lot more colourful and visually flamboyant than the first half, which was a lot kind of duller.
The first half was very dull and kind of.
It was kind of dull and gritty, and then the second half is just like, look at Caesar. He's pink and blue and green, and they wear crop tops. And
the aesthetic just completely changes as well, because you've got like Jonathan's all about like Hamon, and he uses the Hamon to create he sets himself on fire basically, and they kind of give the idea that he's got like fire powers and uses sunlight to beat vampires and stuff. And then you got Caesar, who uses fucking bubbles.
I love that, where it's just like, does he always have soap on him, basically? Because
my clothes are covered in soap.
He's got soap-coated clothing, and that's one of the first things he says.
I just love that idea of just constantly being a bit greasy.
Because we haven't talked about Lisa yet. Lisa was wonderful. She was, in my opinion, she may actually be my favourite shonen mentor character.
I really liked her, but there was one thing that really pissed me off about the whole reveal of her being Joseph's mother? Yeah. Was the fact that they went, oh yeah, she was the baby on that boat, but had mentioned previously that the baby on the boat had married Erina's son, which would obviously make her the mother. But they didn't say this for 2 episodes. They didn't mention the fact that I don't know, they didn't mention the fact that she was his mum until Smokey just goes,
it's his mama!
And that was a cliffhanger. I was like,
that's
the worst cliffhanger ever. I knew that 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, I know. I just found it silly how Joseph didn't notice, because she pretty much tells him. It's like, I found this picture. Oh yeah, that's me. That's the baby. The baby there that married your dad. Yeah, that's me. It's just like, does that mean? Oh, I'm not going to think about that. I got a fight to go to.
Wait. We've already established that Joseph wasn't smart.
He was cunning,
he was but he wasn't smart. The thing that annoyed me about Lisa, I say about Lisa, the situation around her was the fact that she got one fight against Wyatt Beck that lasted 2 seconds. And then she went up against Cars, and I thought, yes, this is going to be amazing. And then she got obliterated in half a minute.
Yeah,
and it's like
that was pretty.
And then she immediately just became a damsel in distress. It was like, and a mum.
Really, I loved how much of a bitch she was at the start of the training with that hell climb tower bit. That was pillar. Just like, I felt it. I was like, man, can you imagine that? That'd be horrible. It's like,
it's when you think to yourself, all of that, like liquid and everything, that's all oil.
No, I think the worst part of it is where it goes 18 hours later, and I was like, 18 hours?
That's a long time.
That's a long time. They don't get any eat, man.
They don't get any eat.
Yeah, they don't get no eat. They don't get no coffee. They don't get no fucking 31p cereal. Nothing. Not even a can of
I've
monster.
just got
It's like,
I've just got this vision in my head now. After Caesar's got to the top and JoJo's still climbing, just him like fishing down at, like a Starbucks, just with a piece of string. Going, well, it wouldn't be a piece of string. It would be like he'd use the ripple to send it down to him on a rope made of icicles.
he'd like just get like a load of Cocoa Pops cereal bars and ripple them together into one.
Eat this, man.
Oh, the stupidest thing that reminds me of is the icicle rope bit. They're falling for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It lasts about an episode, and for somehow he's able to reach.
That got me as well.
Falling for like 8 minutes or something, and then Kaz gets to the bottom finally. He looks up, and it's just like a normal distance to the top.
I've fallen about 20 centimeters.
Going back to Lisa for a minute. I think the reason that, you know how she reacted when Caesar died, and the reason that was so powerful was because she was such a bitch all the episodes leading up to that. So, it all worked out.
But everyone loves a bitch, especially in anime.
I loved her in that regard, though, because she was, like, strict but fair.
Yeah.
You can tell how she acted was, like, it worked to make everyone stronger.
She was harsh to JoJo, though. You've got a month to get good at the ripple. Wicked, I'm going to put a Bane mask on you and kick you down a hole.
What I do find funny, though, is that those two mentor people that are with Lisa, they're meant to be, like, amazing and everything, and he can hold a glass of water on his finger, and they just get walloped. Like, they're just, like...
The one guy just dies off-screen. He's just dead.
He's just gone. And then frickin' Caesar's outside, standing as if he needs a Waz. Just, like, doing that thing. He's like, man, I'm very aware. And the other guy's like, all right, Caesar, gets his arm cut off. It's like, oh, brilliant.
Anyway.
Simmer down. Can we talk about music now?
We're getting too excited.
Can we talk about bloody stuff?
Can we talk about that dubstep song with Chariot Race, please?
Oh,
Wow.
That was so
but
obnoxious because it was CGI dubstep and Chariot Race.
The track is called Burning Colosseum.
That thing is the thing is, rewatching it, they used that as early as like episode 4 of Battle Tendency,
Yeah.
and I didn't realise. I thought the first time it was used was during the.
I think it's because that's the first time it's got some real impact to it. The rest of the times it's kind of just in the background.
Yeah, I think the main time that's the first time they actually play it when there's no other sounds on screen, and it's just like, man, and then it comes back again with the squirrel.
Oh my god, that squirrel!
That squirrel was.
Can I just say, that squirrel killed a person. Squirrel killed a person.
Squirrels are dangerous, man. If you ever fought a squirrel, it hurts.
It wasn't just a squirrel though; it was a zombie squirrel.
It was a zombie squirrel made of Kaz's hand.
And then it turns into a butterfly, and then a hand.
And then a hand. He didn't just turn it back in his hand. He made sure he was
That
like,
whole
look at what I
bit
can
was just
do.
ridiculous. It was just so stupid.
It's the
It's
fact
like-
that the thing I love about that scene is the fact that he's just standing there looking all incredibly fabulous, like I am now the ultimate being. All the soldiers and everyone are like, oh shit! And then they're all like petrified, and he's like, watch me make a butterfly! Yay!
Now it's a flower.
The thing I love the most about that scene where he transforms is that bit where it just flashes to this info card with diagram.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
He's got
using his wings used for being amazing. See this body here. This has been toned for battle. See this. This is the ultimate example of a perfect human being. Not in Emmy's book though. That's Caesar.
Absolute genius. Just that whole...
Oh,
it was the idea that it was so utterly ridiculous, but all of these people were terrified of him, but to a point, you could understand why they were. It was such this weird dichotomy of, this is hilarious, but also terrifying.
Okay. One thing actually, what was the Pillar Men's motives? What did they actually want to do? Because they didn't want to destroy the world.
I
They didn't want to take
understood
over.
it was world domination.
Cars, basically, AC/DC, and just AC/DC followed Cars. I think simply because he respected his ideals or something. Wham and San Viento, they were raised by AC/DC and Cars because they were the two children that were taken away from the rest of the tribe. From what I understand, like literally from watching the final episode just before the stream started, Cars was the only member of kind of like the vampire tribe that had any sort of ideals. He was a genius, and his idea was, we can be better than this, we can evolve, and he created the stone mask. So the Pillar Men are basically an example of what happens when a vampire puts a stone mask on.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, I
okay.
know, I know, like what he wanted to do was to be able to stay out in the day or whatever.
Basically,
but
he
they're-
wanted
they're- I
his
want to
whole
know
purpose. Oh, go on. Sorry.
their grander plan. Like,
All that Cars
what's their
wanted
end
to
goal?
do, from all I could gather, Cars just wanted to become the ultimate life form, and then the other three were just like, "Yeah, we'll do that.
So I
We'll
was
just go along with
thinking,
you
like,
because you're
what
powerful."
What would have happened if he just stayed alive? It's just like, what if they just let him be? Like, what's he gonna do?
Probably nothing.
Like, is he gonna just live his life
There's
and
a
enjoy
point.
it, or is he gonna massacre people?
There's a
I
point
think
where I
he's
think
just
it's-
gonna enjoy his life.
There's a point where I think Speedwagon says, "Oh no, it's Stroheim." Stroheim goes, "You know, we have no choice. We either defeat him now, or we live under his feet
Under his
for
rule.
eternity." But it's like, would that really be so bad? To revere him as a god, he won't kill you. He might even share some knowledge with you, make some cool stuff.
Yeah, it'd be like Romans. He'll make some roads.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
and some
Wouldn't be
jabs.
that bad. Except everyone knows that Cars was a bit of a twat, and that's why he had to die.
I think it's just because. I think the main reason he had to die is because JoJo was like, "You did my mentor lady, and
You upset my granny.
I will ruin you.
I will send you to
I
space."
was very surprised by the
get
fact
you in a
that
Boston
like
crab."
JoJo wasn't very quickly lost how upset he was about Caesar in order to give
Yeah.
respect to Wham.
It was kind of Caesar died, and that set up the emotional tone really nicely for the fight with Wham. But as soon
Yeah.
as the fight with Wham was over, that was kind of it. It was just like, oh, Caesar's gone now.
No, but the thing I like about that is the reason he wasn't so angry at Wham is because of that respect thing. Because he's just like, oh yeah, Wham didn't
He left
take
the
the bubble back.
Yeah, he left the
left
bubble.
the bubble as a sign of respect, and that's why he respected Wham in turn. Because like, you're not gonna hate on your enemy for fighting his mutual enemy. Like you can't be like, Wham, you are wrong for killing Caesar when Caesar was trying to kill you. Because JoJo understands that, which is why I guess he wasn't mad at Wham in that case, and just because it was an honourable fight. And Wham admits that. And in the end, where all the zombies are like, oh, let's kill JoJo now, and Wham's like, I am a severed head. I will get my horn out.
There is a little bit though. The one thing that does make me think that Wham wasn't quite as honourable as he was letting out to be was outside the hotel. He was attacking people while invisible.
I
By
think
the
he
way,
was just showing off.
I'm invisible, and you're dead. He can make himself invisible. To be fair, he didn't make himself invisible once they were inside. Sure, but the damage was already done.
Well, I don't think he
Visible.
could, because it was like an air thing from the outsidey thing.
An air thing from the outsidey thing.
Yeah, you know.
It was. I think it was refracting the sunlight, wasn't it?
And then
that's
he's
why
just
it was
like,
visible in sunlight.
just like sandstorm time. Wow, 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 wow. I love that move.
Divine sandstorm.
And can I just the freaking animation of him after he's had his arms ruined when he's on the horse, and it's just like a constant animation of him going.
That's the one thing. I think that's the one thing that makes Wham the best one as well. He was the only one that had a signature move. That when he started doing it, you'd be like, "Oh shit! It's the Divine Sandstorm."
And ACDC was just like, I'm right hot, and Cars was like,
I
got arm blades, me.
I'm a
I
brain.
scythe me. Oh. I want to talk about Stroheim again. Stroheim.
Stroheim.
We should move on and see like
Have we talked about Bloody Stream yet?
It's good.
no, it's good.
It's amazing.
It's good.
Boom. Boom.
I like that. I like that opening a lot. But I feel like Sonochi no Sadame kind of it captures the essence of JoJo's.
Oh yeah.
Whereas Bloody Stream is like a better song critically.
Yeah.
I just like the fact that makes me think of JoJo's all the time.
I wouldn't have any other OP to start off this JoJo's continuous adaptation than the first opening. But then again, Bloody Stream, I think, is so perfectly encapsulates what Battle Tendency feels like. All I can say, flashing forward and doing something a bit out of out of the water here. I don't like Stand Proud that much. The new OP.
I haven't heard it. I haven't watched episode 4 yet, so I haven't heard it enough to really pass judgment. Because
it's just, I don't know. It doesn't have the same kind of pizzazz. It's just kind of this hard rock track, and it's not bad, but it's just it's.
I like the start of the video of it, where you've got Jonathan, and you've got Joseph, and then you've got Jotaro. And
anyway,
like,
let's leave enough of that.
We'll talk about that in more detail when we do a clip on it.
Here's a question, Abby. Are you going to watch Stardust Crusaders?
Yes, but in moderation. I'm not going to watch any more JoJo's like I watched JoJo's over the past few days because I didn't enjoy it that much. But I feel like I would enjoy it once or twice a week.
Well, you can watch it week by week. Just watch the first 3 episodes.
I've got to catch up on Stardust Crusaders, and then I can watch it week by week. So
also, you get more of Joseph being horrifically racist towards the Japanese. It's hilarious.
It's pretty wonderful. Does that draw us to a close of the discussion? Are we ready to move on to questions? Is there anything else?
It is 10 past 10, so we've got a good 20 minutes to answer questions and say comments and stuff. Should we just should we just do overall thoughts of the 3 of us quickly?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh shit, that means I've got to start, haven't I?
I can start if you want. We can do left or right again if you want.
No, it's all right. We'll go the other way this time.
All right.
My overall thoughts on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the first season, was it's JoJo's in it. Like even if you don't like it, if you like shonen, you have to respect JoJo's because it is the precursor to modern shonen, and it struggles to find its feet a bit, and then it builds up. It's very good. It's good. JoJo's is definitely worth watching if you haven't, which you probably have because you're watching this stream. Sorry, I am all over the place at the moment. And this isn't because I've had a couple of strongbows. It's because I'm trying to say cohesive things off the fly, and I'm not good at that. I really, really, really enjoyed it when I was watching it week by week, marathoning it over the last 2 days like I have. It didn't quite have the same impact. Partly because I knew everything that was going to happen, obviously, but also just because it was a lot. It was a bit of a slog.
It is a bit dense.
You find that the fights get very samey, and it's all kind of it's very. Things could have easily been truncated and been shorter. Some things you want to be developed more. So, like anything really, it has its faults, but I feel like it was very, very well executed.
Oh, is it me now?
If I say any more, it's going to dissolve into
we need an out of 10 rating, Cam.
Oh God!
Yeah, we need an out of 10.
Oh,
you give this thing a 10, didn't you? I'm pretty sure you did.
Well, on my figure collection.
You gave it a 10 on Mal. I'm not sure if that's.
I must. That was probably after I watched the last episode. I was like, oh, JoJo's 10. If it hasn't got a 10, it's definitely got a 9. So, can I find out now? No, I can't. But anyway, yeah, it's probably a 9, somewhere around that. Just because watching it week by week, you did have moments where you were like, "Whoa, what's gonna happen? Oh my God, Jesus, Mom," and stuff like that.
Yeah. I liked parts of it, and then other parts I felt really bored by. Like I've said before, I didn't think the villain in the first half, I don't think Dio's a very good villain because he's just so one-dimensional and doesn't really have a lot to him apart from being bad. Which isn't very interesting to watch, and it doesn't set up for a very interesting villain or anything like that, so I was really vastly unimpressed by Dio from like episode 3 onwards, after the time skip. But overall, I liked how that arc ended, because it was such a surprise to me, because I had no idea that Jonathan was going to die, and I had no idea where it was going afterwards. Which was really kind of cool. Part 2 is better, by far. I don't really have much to say on it that I haven't already said, though. Like, I thought the Pillarmen were interesting, but if they came back, I think it would lose a lot of its... If they came back in any form, I think it would like lose its impact or whatever. But I'd give it a 6. Which, for someone who isn't that big into shonen, particularly, I think that's a pretty good score. So
I respect 6. Is it my turn? when I first started watching this series, way back when it first started airing, I hated it. Like first 4 episodes, or something, I hated it. I couldn't stand it. And then I kind of it kind of clicked. I was like, oh, I'm watching it wrong. And then I got into it at that point. And upon finishing the first time, I really did enjoy it because of battle tendency. But I still will always say, after revisiting Phantom Blood, I've watched Phantom Blood 3 times now. Because when I first watched it, I reviewed it when it was done, which involved rewatching Phantom Blood. And I still don't like Phantom Blood. I don't like how disjointed it is. I don't like I just don't like Dio. I don't like some of the other bit villains in there. But battle tendency, I thought was fantastic throughout. I have very few poor things to say about battle tendency, aside from like bad CGI and that kind of thing, and just general the fact that I don't rate it stupidly highly because it's not 100% my thing. So I'm going to rate them separately and together. Phantom Blood gets like a low 6, borderline 5-6, and then battle tendency gets like a very, very high 8, maybe borderline 9, averaging out at a decent 7. For me. That's my 2 pence.
Cool.
And
Are we doing questions or are we wrapping up?
No, we'll do a couple of...
We'll do. So any questions from people?
Some audience input.
Yeah. First thing, someone mentioned that I don't think we talked about Roundabout by Yes, the ED.
Well,
that bass.
The key to that is the name of the artist. Yes.
Yeah, that ED is absolutely wonderful. I adore it. Absolutely adore it.
I love the fact that it's a massive the idea that the ending, because you've got the ending of being roundabout by Yes, and then moving on to Stardust Crusaders, you've got Walk Like an Egyptian, and it just kind of it's this massive testament to how much the mangaka loves English music. Because obviously it's got all these references in it as well. It is very self-referential in the fact that it's just an English track. And I can imagine that must have been a nightmare to get the license for.
I got really disappointed when I thought the ending changed, but then I was like, yeah, it's the chorus.
He's like, oh no, it's different. I was the same.
It's such a long slog of a song.
It's
like a really long song, so I like that they were able to just pick and choose which part of the song they wanted to use. And I always like this when they kind of will use the first part of the song to kind of lead you into it, like there's the very kind of quiet intro that leads into the bass, and it's just kind of like then it just does that, and then it goes into the ED, which is sad because like the episode's over. But
well, if you're on a control, I can be like, oh no, the episode's over, skip.
The bass line that was there most of the time, loved it, but my internet might have just died.
No, you're right.
I can.
Am I okay?
You went
right. Because everything
went
just
out of
started
sync for a
buffering.
second, but
Everyone's out of sync, and everyone's a bit fuzzy. Am I okay?
You're okay.
You're okay.
You're fine.
I think we can deal with out of sync. We're good.
Okay.
We're good. Do we have any questions yet? Come on, guys.
No.
Ask us some things. Ask us some things. Slim inquired as to why I wasn't using a percentage, and just because I need to think about percentages. I don't really need to think about out of tens.
We should say questions specifically about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure because we haven't finished the show yet.
This is the JoJo's questioning portion of the stream. And if nobody has any questions, we might just end this prematurely. You guys are all being...
There's nothing I can really do about it. Like nothing. I'm not doing anything else.
What's happened?
Apparently the stream is stuttering.
Oh look, it is stuttering like hell now.
All of you need to stop downloading porn. Literally stop downloading that Lisa Hentai that you've been sparked to start downloading now that we've been talking about it. Behave yourselves.
We've got some questions now, but...
Do we?
But the stream is stuttering like mad.
JoJo peeping on his mum was creepy. Yes, it was creepy, but only if you knew. But then when you find out, you think, oh, he was looking at her in the bath. Ew.
And he was like, nice.
He was like, yeah, that's my mom, except I don't know that.
Did Evie enjoy part 2 enough to watch Stardust Crusaders? Yes. Yes, I
Okay,
did.
so the audio is fine, but the video is stuttering like a beach.
Yeah, there's loads.
That's all right.
There are loads of drop frames at the moment.
Oh my god.
The number's just going up like mad. Oh, I've gone weird.
Yeah, you've also gone really fuzzy on my end. I don't know if that's me or...
It must be my internet. Apparently 20 past 10 is when everyone decides to come home and go on the internet in this area.
That's Manchester. Oh no. We've been ruined by Manchester internet.
It's because there was a match today, so everyone's gone online to go on Facebook and go, oh, there was a match today. I've been out for a drink, and there's probably some Japanese people talking about an anime where people punch each other, but I don't think that's very good. I went out and punched someone in real life. They like City, and they're shit.
Oh, should we end this prematurely with it going? If it's going, yeah. I think I don't really want to talk for half an hour with our video being completely and utterly unviewable.
We do need to like spin it off, but like end the show, and then we need to stay on for a little bit so that the pod's okay. Thanks for watching.
Sucks that the stream is bad. Well, maybe we'll do another test stream next week.
Yeah, I has been back a shift. We has had the one and only Bizarre Jelly 5. And the one and only Tensei Twister. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time on May 10th at 4 PM EST for Silver Spoon.
We're watching that.
We hope to see you there. And hopefully...
Silver Spoon. Silver Spoon.
Go watch it. It's on Crunchyroll, as always. So go check that out. It's a great show. It's by the original manga, same as Fullmetal Alchemist. So you come and join us on May 10th for that, and we will see you all then.